Let me ask you a question. Your lesson kind of ends up going along with what I was thinking about my devotional tonight is, how many of you are guilty of flattery?
I mean, like receiving, like liking it, or what do you, I guess?
How many of you are guilty of flattery? Do you know what flattery is? Anybody? No, well, I guess it's not a class, but you think about this. Do you know what flattery is? Flattery is insincere compliments. Like, like for instance, you tell your boss, boy, you're looking dapper today, or really good to see you, and inside you're thinking, man, I wish he'd just never come around. But you're doing something to gain. It's for personal gain. You're complimenting, you're trying to be nice to somebody, not really meaning to, or not really for that, but it's so you gain something. That's flattery. And we're all guilty of it. We all say things, and ask questions. You ever ask somebody how they're feeling and really don't care? Yeah. We're all guilty of these empty words of flattery or different things. I never thought about that before until this study. And I got a saying that you guys can put in the back of your head so you remember to be careful with flattery. It says, flattery is like chewing gum. Enjoy it, but don't swallow it. Sometimes we get caught up in flattery, don't we? People are saying stuff and we start believing it. And we get caught up in it and we swallow it. But it may be empty. So we don't want to get caught up in that. If you turn over to Romans, we'll start with Romans chapter 15. I'm going to show you something. Romans 16, I'm sorry. I don't know how many times you've read this, but we won't go through and read the whole thing because of time. But in this section, Paul is complimenting people. He just goes on and on about complimenting all these people. Did you ever hear Paul or Jesus or Peter or any of them say, boy, you look good today? That type of flattery, you ever hear them saying that in the Bible? Matter of fact, the Bible even said Jesus wasn't great to look on. He was just average, right? But here, Paul is giving an example of complimenting people to help them, to further them. He's saying what a great worker they were in the Lord. The type of people that were faithful and servant and trustworthy. These are all the examples. Do we do that with our brothers? Enough? Do we do that enough? Because see that, what does that do? That gains a bond, doesn't it? I enjoy it when I'm teaching a class and people are commenting. Not on me, but on the class, because I know they're into it. And I know they're studying it along. We need to recognize different traits people have. And understand that everybody has their own thing, and we need to be willing to compliment them. Because you know why? A lot of times people don't recognize their traits. They really don't. They don't recognize them. And by us reassuring them that, man, you know what? My grandmother, I'll tell you, I told you this before. You could count on my grandmother Campbell for a smile and a hug. And I never remember telling her how much I appreciated that. But it wasn't just to me or her family. It was to every single person. If she walked in here today, not knowing any of you, you'd all have a hug. Some of you might even a kiss on her cheek. But you felt when she left here today, you've known her a long time. I don't remember ever complimenting her for that. Shame on me. I appreciate it now. I think about that. And I think, man, I need to be better at that. Not meaning I want to kiss y'all, but I need to be better at recognizing your qualities and complimenting on that instead of nice boots, nice shirt, nice dress. superficial stuff that's okay to do, nothing wrong with it, or flattering to gain something by it. Well, I'm not sure that person really likes me, so I'm going to compliment them all the time, so they start liking me better. See, that's flattery, doing something for gain, as opposed to a sincere compliment based on their person. If you look over, turn over to Samuel, 1 Samuel, chapter 16. This gives an example of what the Lord looks for. It's Samuel 16, verse 7, starting there. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his appearance, nor on his height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as a man sees, but looks on the outward appearance. But the Lord looks on the heart. And see, we need to think about that. When we're looking at someone, look at their heart. Because we are all going to mess up. We're all going to have bad days. Yet, that's not who we are. And see, God understands, that's why He's given us forgiveness, right? He understands we're going to sin. But He looks at our person and says, that's my servant. He's going to ask for forgiveness and I'm going to forgive him. I'm not going to hold a grudge that we're so quick to do. The Lord wants us to look at each other inwardly, not outwardly. Yet it's so easy for us to look at the outward person and deal with that issues instead of looking at the heart of somebody. And we need to be better at recognizing each other in that. Because let's face it, in this world we're getting hounded on the outside. I said this last week in class. Today the world looks at us as we're the troublemakers because we are going against the grain. See, and instead of them being the troublemakers and false teachers are going against God, they have completely turned it around. So what do we need? We need each other, don't we? We need each other to recognize. I appreciate Jill's zeal for the gospel. I do. I appreciate her comments. She's always right there with comments. I appreciate that. And I'm exercising my right now while I have the floor. But a lot of you have I appreciate Roger's song leading Sunday. It was like get it on songs. And I like that. I like to get fired up for praising God. You know, and that's my thing. That I like those type of songs. Because I want to feel fired up for my Lord. So let's look at each other inwardly. God looks at our heart. Let's look at each other for who we are. Because it's so easy for us to get down on ourselves. Or swallow that flattery like it's something worth something. When it isn't. See, the older you get, each time you look in the mirror, you realize that person, that young guy that you used to think was good looking, all of a sudden isn't. Because the outside don't matter though. I'm a much better person today, I think, than I was 40 years ago.
On the inside.
On the inside, though. The outside wore out, but the inside's going strong. And see, that's the thing we need to focus with each other. Is let's look at our hearts. Let's look at inside and let's compliment each other and appreciate each other for that. Just like Paul did. And just like the Lord does. So there's something to think about this week. As we get into this new year, maybe make that a New Year resolution. Let's remember the gift of giving. And that's definitely a gift, isn't it? A great gift. So if anybody needs prayers or has a need, come forward while we stand and sing. Thank you.